Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're checking out Bill Wurtz's History of the World, I guess. I don't know what this is. It's been recommended to me for years, and I definitely only put it off now because I was saving it for this occasion, as opposed to tabbing it a few times and then losing it when my computer crashed and I lost all the data and I didn't remember to re-tab this and forgot for literally years. Yeah, that would be embarrassing. I would never admit to that publicly. More importantly, there's a link below to the original video. Hit it up and let's get started.
Hi,
History
you're
of the
on a
world.
rock, floating in space. Pretty cool.
Oh,
huh?
it's going to
So
be... We are doing Maxor levels of editing. Got it.
water. Fuck it. Actually, most of it's water. I can't even get from
80%
here
right?
to there without buying a boat. It's sad.
That's
I'm
a problem.
sad. I miss you. How did this happen?
Okay, random music.
Actually, never. And also now.
What?
Nothing is nowhere. When? Never. Makes sense, right?
What?
Like I said, it didn't happen. Nothing was never anywhere. That's why it's...
Nothing was... Sorry, I'm having an English major moment. Nothing was never anywhere. Because if it was anywhere, it would be any, which is the opposite of nothing. So technically, this is a completely grammatically accurate sentence. It just literally hurts my brain. I hate everything about this.
That's why it's been everywhere. It's been so everywhere,
been
you
everywhere
don't
that
need a
anywhere
where.
isn't.
You don't even need a when. That's how every it gets.
This guy's incredibly smart, isn't he? Because this is a level of blatantly dumb humor that's playing on words accurately that you only get if you know exactly what you're doing. Oh. Did I just pause it? No, it's still playing. What's going on? Also, I don't know why I'm talking. He's doing nothing and everywhere.
Forget this. I want to be something. Go somewhere. Do something. I want things to change. I want to invent time and space. And I know it's
gonna
possible
be-
because
and as
everything
God.
is here and it probably already happened.
Or the Big
I
Bang.
just don't know when to start.
Maybe.
And that's exactly where it started. Oh,
Boom.
I paused it. I think there's a universe now. What's it made of? Quarks and stuff. Ah, that...
Well, technically, they actually went even smaller than that now, and it's absolutely fucking terrifying and enlightening. And I mean, enlightening in the sense that if you get anywhere close to that, it's literally just light at that point. It's literally energy. Matter is just energy that's a little more boring.
It's a thing. In a place. Don't like it? Try a new place. At a different time. Try to stick together because the world is going to get bigger and emptier. But it's not
wrong.
empty yet. It's...
Ooh, the dark matter. Ooh. This is actually something that's kind of fascinating. The dark matter one, I think he made this, 7 years ago? It's still conjecture, and it was then, but I think they found more evidence to actually try and map it out because of the gravitational influence it's been putting onto the specific galaxies we can observe it on. Mostly our own, but I think they've had some, let's call it guesses that it has influenced other galaxies as well. Sorry, it's just... 7 years is nothing in terms of dealing with the shit because they've been doing it for decades and it's fascinating.
Here. But it's not empty yet. It's still very full and about 1 jillion degrees. Great news. The quarks are now happily married in groups of...
Wait, I thought this was the world, not the entire universe, because what he's describing right now is literally the Big Bang process.
3, called a proton or a neutron. And there's something else flying around too that wants to join in but can't because it's still too...
Yeah.
Great news.
10
The
minutes
protons and neutrons are now happily married to each other. Some of them even doubled up.
Oh my.
Great news. The electrons have now joined in. Congratulations. The world is now a bunch of gas in space.
More
But
matter
it's
than it
getting
was
closer
before.
together. And it's getting closer together.
500 million is gravity.
It's a star.
Actually, this is the funny thing about this. The entire timeline he's working on is the old concept of what it is, but there's a lot of speculation right now due to some radio findings within, I think, the last 5 years that show that there might, maybe, very speculatively, have been some very fast created stars that would be well within that 500 years. So it would have been much sooner for a much more compact star creation that would have burned incredibly hot and died out. And may or may not still exist, depending on if the instruments that were measuring it when they found this in the recent radio telescope, I think surveys, were accurate, which is entirely possible they weren't, or they might be misinterpreting the data. But it's fascinating because they found a bunch of stars like, hey, why are they so bright and old and far away and still that bright? Because either the mass is, oh God, or the age is, oh God, or something is not adding up that they're just not aware of. One of them is a lot of really old stars that somehow didn't die and were older than what we're seeing right here. It's just, this is just, I'm nerding out right now. I know I'm nerding out.
New shit just got made.
Ooh,
some stars
the
burn
first
out
ones.
and die. Bigger stars burn out and die with passion and make some
Supernovas.
brand new, way crazier shit.
Oh yeah, because most of the things were made from stars that were spread out further. Because they're basically Minecraft furnaces. Technically what I said is not inaccurate. And I hate this. I absolutely hate this. Just pretend I never said this.
which allows newer, more interesting stars to be made and then die and explode into.
But burn hotter or cooler
So now stars
longer.
have cool stuff around them, like rocks, ice, and funny clouds, which can make some very interesting things. Like this ball of flaming rocks, for example. Holy shit, we just got
Because it was
hit with
magma for
another
a while.
ball of flaming rocks, and it kind of made a mess, which is...
Oh, he's talking about the creation of the solar system. Not just the solar system, the moon. The funny thing about this is a lot of that has been traced back to, we might have got a significant proportion of the Earth's water from that specific impact. Because the moon has a significant proportion of that, and so does the asteroid belt, which is a, reasonably large collection of space rocks, but also has Ceres, which is majority liquid water. I don't remember at the top of my head if it's the constitution of H2O or ammonia or something else, because there's plenty of planets with liquid, but not the kind we drink. But there's just all of that, and there's a lot of space rocks that are just asteroids made of liquid water, or titanium, palladium, copper, platinum. There's entire platinum asteroids out there that could crash our entire economies with how expensive they are, or specifically the platinum value. Sorry, space is cool. I get really into this.
Weather update. It's raining rocks from outer space. Weather update. Those rocks might have had water inside them, and now there's hot steam in...
Oh, so he's bringing that up, but actually I think it was the earlier one that had that. So the steam might have been actually much further in than what people thought. At least that's one of the theories. There's a lot of competing theories because obviously you can't go back and see it itself.
The sky. Weather update. Cooler temperatures today, and the floor is no longer lava. Weather update. It's raining.
It was literally
Severe
lava,
flooding
yeah.
alert. The entire world is now an ocean.
Yep.
Volcano alert.
There's it.
There's life in the ocean. What?
Well, that's mostly accurate. Volcanoes were a lot of the early land, but a lot of I can't speak today. Tectonic activity, the plates shifting together, pushed each other up. For example, the Himalayas, the Appalachian Mountain Range, the Rocky Mountain Range, and I think the Alps were all actually created based on competing competing tectonic plates hitting each other and literally forcing them above the water. So a lot of that was just based on those existing. And then some of them are pulling apart, which, for example, is the creation of the Atlantic Ocean, which is also then pushing the Appalachians in, although I think the pushing there isn't nearly as strong as it used to be, although the Rockies are a lot newer, so they're a lot higher. Things like that are not just volcano-generated. For example, if you want a volcano-generated island system, Hawaii. It's also why it's a chain of islands that get progressively smaller, because when they're not being maintained by a volcano, they kind of stop existing after a while because they just slowly get eroded and there's nothing added to them. Yeah, that's actually a way it works. It's so slow as to be absolutely useless for human scale, but it's exactly how it happens.
Something's alive in the ocean. Oh, cool, like a plant or an animal? No, a microscopic speck. It lives at the bottom of the ocean and eats chemical soup, which is being served hot and fresh, made from...
Also, he's actually bringing up the hot gas vents. This is actually one of the most fascinating things, because these things, they're still there. The ecosystem he's describing right now still exists. It's changed, of course, but it exists closer to this than anywhere else on the planet has ever. Honestly, one of the few things that have really stuck around to such a similar extent would be alligators, and only because they are just really freaking hard to get rid of, apparently, because they've literally survived multiple extinction events. Yeah. Your move, Florida.
Gnarly space ingredients left over from when it was raining rocks or whatever. Oh yeah, and it can do that.
Potentially left over. That's the crazy part. It has been theorized there might have been microbes on those, and some of them also might have been self-generating, and that's actually heavily up for debate. It could just be a spontaneous generation of proteins because they just happened to work in such a situation where it did function based on lightning strikes on the surface, generating heavy particles that drifted down and then were interacting with the heat and just spontaneously creating proteins, and the proteins over time they create. So basically it's the equivalent of saying 1,000 monkeys in a room with typewriters, and eventually after an infinite amount of time, one of them will accidentally hit Shakespeare on the typewriter. It's basically that. Another could be that there was life somewhere else that crash landed in, which he just mentioned. So that's actually a possibility right now. So both are fascinating.
It has secret instructions written inside itself telling it how to build another one of itself.
Well,
so
that
that's
came a
pretty
lot
nifty,
later.
I would say. Tired of living at the bottom of the ocean? Now you can eat sunlight.
Yeah.
Using a revolutionary technique, you can
Free
convert
energy.
sunlight into food. Side effect, now there's oxygen everywhere and the sky's blue. Then the Earth might have been a snowball for a while.
That one is entirely possible. This one's just a lot harder to see because the way things were added in. you would have to go into fossil, not even fossil records, geological records. And I'm not sure how they would show water except in creation of specific types of rocks, but those would mostly be seen in volcanic areas because they would be the ones interacting with the water the most. But even then, it would just be how it forms and not the type of formation.
Maybe even a couple of times. It's a sponge. It's a plant. It's a worm and some other types of weird, strange water bugs and strange fish. It's the Cambrian explosion.
So much life.
Wow, that's
everywhere.
animals and stuff. But we're still in the ocean. Hey, can we go on land? No. Why?
Soon.
The sun is a deadly laser. Oh, okay. Not
Yeah.
anymore, there's a blanket. Now the animals can go on land. Come on, animals, let's go on land. Nope, can't walk yet. And there's no food yet, so I don't care.
Yeah, that would do
Okay,
it.
will
100
you
million
learn
years
to walk
later.
if there's plants up here?
Plant.
Maybe, said some bugs and fish.
Yep. 5
Okay,
million
so I
years
can
later.
go on land, but I have to go back in the water to
Amphibians.
have babies. Learn to use an egg.
I was already doing that.
Use a stronger egg. Put water in it. Have a baby on land
Oh,
in
there's
an
water?
egg. Water is in the egg. Baby in the egg, in the water, in the egg. Works for me. Bye-bye, ocean. And now everything's huge, including bugs. Want to see a map of the land? Sure. Oh, fuck. No.
Wait, Permian extinction? I thought this was not exactly what it looked like. I thought the initial one was Pangea. But there might have been previous ones, and that's the expansion? What?
Oh, fuck. Now everything's
Permian
dead. Just kidding. Here are the survivors. Keep your eye on this one because it's about to become the dinosaurs. Here's
Yep.
another map of the land. Yeah, it broke apart. Don't worry about it. It does that all the time. Here
Oh, he didn't even call it Pangea. Although I think there's been multiple other variations of it now. You can see where they even fit in, where they broke apart
comes a
from.
meteor.
Yucatan Peninsula. No, actually, the one he's talking about right there is not entirely certain to be the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, but you can actually see the remnants of this because what he's looking at is the Yucatan Peninsula. And if you ever look on a map, actually, I'm just going to pull that up right now. 1 second. Yucatan Peninsula map. Ah, here we go. This is just one of those things that I would love if they went faster. Let's see if I can get a satellite view. Ah, here we go. The impact crater, I'm pretty sure, is somewhere around this area. And let's see if I can actually pull that up again. Because this is the kind of thing I geek out over constantly. Yucatan Peninsula crater. Ah, here we go. Ah, Chicxulub. Here we go. Yep, right area. So it would have hit roughly at the top, and you could see the edges of it. It actually does still impact where the land is a little greener on the edge. Basically, that is what is theorized to have been the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. I say theorized because that is not entirely certain, because some of them might have survived after or before, but then died to the essentially nuclear winter, or in this case, impact winter that would have formed from all the dust going into the air, killing off the plants. So even if the meat eaters died immediately and a significant proportion of the dinosaurs died, it wouldn't have mattered because covering up the sun, killing off the plants, killing off the basis of the, well, herbivores would have then killed off the food basis for the more meat eaters, the carnivores. That's exactly how most things happen. It was a very specific ecosystem where everything worked. So when you killed off the entire base layer outside of the oceans and a considerable portion of the ocean, because, you know, it gets hit too, shockwaves traveled, then a lot of it died. The fact that things survived at all is actually insane. It's crazy when you think about that. And those kind of asteroids still exist, but are actively being eaten up by Jupiter and the moon, mostly Jupiter. It's actually insane how many of the moons around it were asteroids it caught. So yeah, there's still a few around you can find, and they're being tracked. And then the really scary ones are the ones we don't know about. And there's still those as well, because they might come back every 100 million years only.
The dinosaurs are gone. It's mammal time. Here come the mammals.
Yep.
Look at those breasts. Now they're going to dominate the world.
Honestly, I'm kind of wishing he showed the initial mammal that most people theorize are the ancestors to all of them. And it basically looks like a little squirrel. Yeah. When you have squirrel brain, you're not being weird. You're just reverting to your roots. It's not actually a squirrel, of course. It just looks like one to me.
And one of them just learned how to grab stuff.
Yeah, that's still
and
weird.
walk. No, like walk like that and grab stuff at the same time. and bang rocks together to make pointed rocks. Ouch. And set things on fire. Youch. And make...
Also, the crazy part is how many times you can find the prehistory. History is maybe 50,000 years, 60,000, depending on how many cave paintings you could find, and they still find older ones every now and again. Prehistory, you could find pottery from Doggerland, for example, in this time period, or maybe a little after this time period, where people lived in what is now the North Sea, or near the North Sea, between Great Britain and Denmark and Norway, because that land was above water at the time. And you only could find that now because when they dredged up to make deeper shipping lanes, things that were buried under the sea were then brought to the shore and people could find them. And there were just so much of it that it's actually a doable archaeological site at this point that you can never get to because it's literally under the ocean, or, well, technically a sea, but you know what I mean. So yeah.
Crazy sounds with their voice.
Yeah.
Which
I think
can
it was
mean
roughly
different
100,000 years
things.
ago, though.
And now they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Almost. What? You can walk over here?
And this would be roughly when the Doggerland I mentioned came up in. The things you could find out in overly sarcastic productions, as well as videos from Simon Whistler, because they just both cover that. It's fascinating.
Cool. Well, I guess we're stuck here now.
It melted.
Let's review. There's people on the planet, and they're chasing their food. Fuck it. Time to plant some grass. Look at this. I control the food now. Now everyone will want to be my friend and live near me. Let's all build houses, except mine is bigger because I own the food. This is great.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone else is doing this. Tired of using rocks for everything? Use metal. It's underground. Better farming was just invented.
I mean, it wasn't actually underground. A lot of it was on surface deposits that were the initial ones, which is why open surface farming was so common, because initially you just picked it up where it was. It's why you can find coal on the surface of some places. It's not the best, and it's usually not a good kind, but it does actually exist, which is why people knew to look underground, because when they started taking from the surface, they found there was more and more and more, but they were going down and down and down. So it was just not so much that it was underground. It was just expanding the surface. Mines came a lot later, and honestly, some of the ones you hear about now are terrifying.
In a sweet, dank valley right in between these two rivers, and the animals are helping. Guess what happens next? More food, and more people who came to buy the food. Now you need people to help make the food and keep track of the sales. And now you need houses for people to live in and people to make the houses. And now there's more people, and they invent things, which makes things better, and more people come, and there's more fun.
The weird thing is, there's actually 3 different locations on the top of my head where I know this happened. One was, I think, in Chile, in America, at least what became Chile, whatever. I don't actually know how to say it now that I think about it. More importantly, there was heavy bits of evidence indicating a society near the coast there that did actually heavily rely on farming and maybe human sacrifice, but didn't actually have any other enemies at the time, based on a very spotty historic record. But they did do farming. There was also civilizations, I think, in what is India, and of course, I think, I don't remember where in China. That's such a huge bit of land. It doesn't really matter at this point. But somewhere within there, the 3 or 4 distinct civilizations that actually had very huge rises of population because, oh, hey, we has food. And they usually expanded out to the point where it became, well, they got destroyed from one reason or another. Usually internal. A lot of the times it's because over farming just depleted the soil and then they had to move on because no more growing.
Farming and more people to make more things for more people, and now there's business, money, writing, laws, power.
Babylon?
Coming soon to a dank river valley near you. Meanwhile, out in the middle of nowhere, the horse is probably being tamed. Why is all my metal so lame and lumpy? Tired of using lame, sad metal? Introducing bronze, made with special ingredient tin from the far lands of Tinland. I don't know, my dealer won't tell me where he gets it. Also, guess what? Meanwhile, out in the middle of nowhere, they figured out how to put wheels on a horse. Now we're getting somewhere. Also, China. And did I mention Indus River Valley Civilization?
Oh yeah, speaking of ones, China. Close. It's more like Pakistan, India area. Not really entirely sure which one that's on. And answering that accurately would probably get this with a few comments in the comment section that I don't want to deal with.
The Middle East is getting more complicated. Maybe because it's in the middle of the East. Knock knock, or clop clop. It's the people with the horses. And they made an empire. And then everyone else copied their horses. Greeks?
Yeah.
Oh, look, it must be the Greeks. Or a beta version of the Greeks.
Oh, he's even referencing the Mycenaean Greece. This is actually fascinating me because what we think of the Hellenistic Greece, the sprawling pillars, the plays, the arts, Athena, Zeus, Hermes, Babylon. Well, not Babylon, that's Babylonia, but all of that is mostly Hellenistic Greece, which came way later, as in closer to our time than the Mycenaean time. It is closer to the moon landing than these guys are, well, which doesn't say much, but you know what I mean. Unless you don't, in which case, there's plenty of videos on it. It's actually fascinating. Look it up. But they're actually almost a hidden empire, because hidden in the sense that we know very little about them. We only know what the Hellenistic Greece, the one we think of as Greece, kind of fanboyed over. And I do mean fanboy. It is Greek in the same way that Washington, D.C. is Roman for its architecture. It's taking a style that is well known to be historical and impressive and doing it, which is the exact same the Hellenistic Greece did with the Mycenaean Greek style. It's very different and a little more elaborate, but also very different and missing a lot of cultural context that would have been obvious and abundant to the people living at the time. So it was like, huh, I don't need to say what lol is. I don't need to explain that in a writing system or down on a tablet. Who needs to be told lol? Except after the civilization falls and no one knows what it means. It's like, what does this line, circle, line mean? I have no idea. So fascinating civilizations like that.
Let's check in with the Indus River Valley civilization. They're gone. Guess who's not gone? China. New arrivals in.
I mean, that's actually debatable considering how often the power struggles happen. They're very distinct rulerships with significant times of overlap when they weren't even the ones in charge of themselves. Like when the Mongol Empire invaded, took over, and they decided to call themselves emperors because assimilation was easier and they just had a lot more power that way. So that's actually debatable. It's definitely not been a continuous power structure or empire, but there's been a lot of things there. And the overlap is mostly academic at this point, but it's also fascinating in its own right.
Maybe it's those horse people I was talking about.
Indo-Europeans? Indo-Iranians?
And they wrote some hymns and mantras and stuff.
The Vedic text.
You could make a religion out of this. There's the Bronze Age collapse. Now the Phoenicians can get down to business.
Oh, that's actually fascinating. He brought up that. The Bronze Age collapse is something I'm absolutely fascinated by because there were significant bits of trade here. When he talked about just the people with horses moving around, there was actually evidence based on local mythologies talking about industry and locations that were well beyond there. I'm not talking like modern technology levels. I'm talking what you would expect of maybe a European conquest era, 1800s levels of spread, but slower and way less technologically developed. But it was that level of, we're going to go there, we're going to get shit, we're going to see what happens. There was things from China moving into Greece, down into Africa, all the way up into some parts of Europe. I'm not sure how tied in that was, but it was there. And some even have indications that the Norse religion are influenced by Mycenaean religions that transferred up into that area. So that's actually a very old and potentially even more accurate to the initial mythologies, if they weren't completely lost, nearly versions of what religion might have been during Mycenaean and Bronze Age culture. Sorry, this is fascinating because we have so many offshoots of so many different mythologies that based their time periods on here, and the collapse fractured them and they became so distinctly different that most people don't even realize they might have been related. And the might is important there because that's still heavily in dispute as well. If it sounds like I'm geeking out, I am very much geeking out right now. This is all the geek for me.
So can we switch to a metal that's a little easier to find? Thanks. Look who came back to Israel. It's the 12 tribes of Israel. And they believe in God. Just one, though. He's got like a 10-step program. Here's some huge heads. Must be the Olmecs. The Phoenicians make some colonies.
Oh, yeah, she brought up the Olmec? Oh. Okay, this is actually fascinating. The Olmec, they're a very new... He only had this come out, 7 years ago? Up until maybe 20 years ago, people outside of this region didn't really believe it was a thing. They was like, oh, this is some random thing. And there were a lot of theories built by stupid people who thought, well, this must be indications that the Europeans reached here first. That's stupid. But they've actually found more and more indication of the entire Olmec civilization, which isn't the one I talked about as the proto-civilization further south, but it might have been their descendants much further on. But it is still fascinating because you find their statues, not just in this area. Some of them were transferred up further and lower into various South American, and Central American locations. And it's just absolutely fascinating to see that we don't know why they did this. I'm assuming it was either religious or trade because those are usually the two reasons people do anything. But there's tons of them and you can always find more because so much of, not just this area, but a little further south, there's a lot of jungle. Things just get covered. It's kind of like when you find some of the ruins for the older civilizations here. they're in good shape because they're just covered in so many layers of plants that the giant structures are just indistinguishable from the ground. So people don't bother looking. I could geek out about this for literal hours.
The Phoenicians make some colonies. The Greeks copy their idea and make some colonies. The Phoenicians made a colony so big it makes colonies. Here comes the Assyrian Empire. Never mind, it's the Babylonian Median. It's the Persian Empire.
Yeah.
Wow, that's big. Ah, the Buddha was just enlightened. Who's the Buddha? This guy who sat under a tree for so long that he figured out how to ignore the fact that we're all dying. You can make a religion out of this. Oops, China just broke, but while it was breaking, Confucius was figuring out how to have good morals. Ah, the Greeks just had the idea.
Confucian morals are actually really harsh if you get into it. It's better than fuck everyone and kill everything if it's not me. But also, it's part of, if your mother and your son are both in trouble, slaughter your son to feed your mother because you can have multiple children, but only one parent. Or, well, two, but details. Yeah, that's heavily paraphrased and put it in the dumbest way possible, but also, yeah. As someone who has a father who doesn't want them to be killed by said father, I'm okay with not exactly following it perfectly.
Of thinking about stuff. And right over here, Alexander just had the idea of conquering the entire Persian Empire. It's a great idea. He was great. And now he's dead. Hopefully the rest of the gang will be able to share the empire evenly between them. Knock knock, it's Chandragupta. He says, get the hell out of here. Will you get the hell out of here if I give you 500 elephants? Okay, thanks, bye.
Didn't he also stop Alexander's march as well? Or was it his predecessor? I don't remember that part. I remember that it stopped in India, though, because he basically did overextend. And also, he did lose flat out. To conquer all of India,
But what about this part? That's the Tamil Kings. No one conquers the Tamil Kings. Who are the Tamil Kings? Merchants, probably.
Yeah.
And they've got spices. Who would like to buy the spices?
Everyone.
The Arabians swiftly buying it and selling it to the rest of the world. Hey, China put itself back together again with good morals as their main philosophy. Actually, they have 3 main philosophies.
Have good morals, go with legalism. Rule by law. Fuck you, obey the law. Yeah, no, that sounds about right.
Here, the horse nomads run wild and free, and they would like to ransack your city.
Really?
Let's check the Greekification levels of the Greekified kingdoms. Greekification overload. Bye, said the Parthians. Bye, said the Jews. Hi, said the Parthians, taking over the entire place. Hey, said the Romans, eating the entire Mediterranean for breakfast. Thanks for invading our homeland, said the Jews, who were starting to get tired of people invading their homeland. Hi, everything's great, said some guy who seems to be getting very popular and is then
So then we've reached through the 2000 BC era, or CE era.
Arrested and killed for being too popular, which only makes...
I said 2000 CE, didn't I? Yeah. I'm an idiot. 0. We've reached 0 CE.
More popular? You can make a religion out of this. Want silk? Now you can buy it from China. They just made a...
See, this is actually not entirely accurate because these trade routes did predate that. And for example, over here on the map where my face is just covering it, if I lean over here, you can see it. They actually have cities like, well, I was going to say Petra, but that's not one of them. Actually, no, Petra was because, no, Petra was different. I can never remember the name of it, but there were actually cities that were thought to be mythological. Maybe it was Petra. And you found that they did exist. They're in the desert. They're very stripped down because, I mean, it's been hundreds of years of wind and erosion and people being assholes taking shit. But there are cities there that were trade stops that were incredibly influential and built on natural springs that seem to have dried up. And it's fascinating because they are predating the Silk Road. These were in the pre-Bronze Age collapse. So these roads, these transaction routes, might have actually led into some of the earlier parts he mentioned where the dynasties split up into multiple factions. Maybe, because trade was a big issue going back and forth. So immediately cutting off means anyone who had power through that suddenly doesn't. And that's usually a big way to say, someone with power no longer has it. Opportunity. Basically, you can take your guess there. Is it the reason? I don't know. Is it even official if there is a reason? There probably is because China has really good records. But the idea that the Silk Road is the first time they've had this route, it wasn't called the Silk Road. At least I don't think it was called the Silk Road. But these trade routes actually existed well before this period. Well, maybe not exactly that route.
You can get their own water. Sick. New trade routes, said India, accidentally spreading their religion to the entire southeast.
Accidentally,
That's a good place for
yeah.
an epic trading kingdom. There goes Buddhism traveling up the Silk Road. I wonder if it'll reach China before it collapses again. Remember the Persian Empire? Yep, said the Persians, making a new one. Axum is getting so powerful they would like to build a long stick. Has anyone populated Madagascar yet? Let's do it
No, I don't think we
together.
did for a long time. Oh. Yeah.
Still can't cross the Sahara Desert? Try camels.
Hell yeah, now we got business.
Said the Ghana Empire, selling lots of gold and slaves. Hi, I live in the Roman Empire, and I was wondering...
Is loving Jesus legal yet?
Nope.
No. Actually, okay, sure, said Constantine, moving the capital way over here to be closer to his main rival. Don't worry about...
Oh, actually, that's fascinating because there's actually a good bit of history showing the movement wasn't just to be closer there. It was because the empire was so large and unwieldy over such a large space, and the entire whole of the center was just water, that administrating it was very difficult from Rome. So they actually basically split it into the two halves as a way to have one leader taking over. Hey, here's the guys who are right next to the main rival, and then here's the rest of the people who aren't near the main rival but also need to be administrated and is more historically the center. You can guess this didn't work out.
Rome, it won't fall.
It's the golden age of India.
There's the Gupta Empire, not Chandragupta, just Gupta. First name Chandra, the first. Guess who's in Rome?
Yeah.
Barbarians.
What's a barbarian? Non-Romans, said the Romans, being invaded by non-Romans. R.I.P. Roman Empire. Or actually just half of it. The other half is just fine. But it's not in Rome anymore, so let's give it a new name.
Byzantine Empire, yeah.
Have figured out the stars.
Oh, and here's a huge city. Population, everyone.
This is actually a fascinating city because it's one you can actually visit now. And I'm pretty sure they've recently found that there was a underground portion in one of the temples where they had an accurate representation of the stars depicted by liquid mercury on the ground showing rivers and star positionings. It's fascinating and also completely sealed because people will fuck it up. And also it's mercury, do not touch it. But yeah, that's actually a thing that's been documented. It's really cool, man.
The Gok Turks have taken over the entire Eurasian steppe. Great job, Gok Turks. How's India? Broken. How's China?
Back together.
Oh.
How's those
That
trading
happens.
kingdoms?
Bigger and there's more of them.
Korea has 3 kingdoms. Japan has a kingdom. It's the Sunrise Kingdom. Deep in the Arabian desert, on the top of a mountain, the real God whispers in Muhammad's ear. So he goes down to the cube where everyone worships
Just drew
gods, and
his
he tells
face
them their
on
gods
fire.
are all fake. And everyone got so mad at him that he had to leave town and go to a different town. You can make a religion out of this, and maybe conquer the world as well. The Roman Empire is long gone, but somehow the Pope is still the Pope. Plus there's...
New kingdoms all over Europe.
I wonder if there's...
Is this before or after the Holy Roman? Or is he just ignoring Holy Roman because it was kind of a sham regardless? It was an empire where the guy in charge also had literally no power by comparison to everyone who could just say no underneath him.
room for Moors. Here's all the wisdom. In a house. It's the Baghdad House of Wisdom. Just in time for the Islamic...
Oh, that's actually fascinating because I've done some research. By that I mean a Simon Whistler and a video by Overly Sarcastic Productions and minor things. The Baghdad House of Wisdom may or may not have been an actual house, but a essentially meme of everyone coming to Baghdad to just have a lot of locations of university, basic locations. Actually, I think this predated university, or no, it's very similar to the creation of it. This is one of those things I knew I remembered, but I'm honestly completely pulling a blank at the moment. So it may have been an actual physical location, or it could have been multiple locations that just happened to be in Baghdad. So Baghdad was referred to as the House of Wisdom, and then that just got colloquially thrown around. But also there were places that were documented and have proof showing that they did have locations of learning in Baghdad that were in giant buildings, giant at the time. So if it was any one of those, or it was all of them, or it was a collective term for all of them together, or if it was one that spread off into a collective term, that's actually not entirely certain. And it's kind of fascinating, man.
Time for the
Islamic golden age.
Let's bring stuff to the coast and sell it and become the Swahili on the Swahili coast, said the Swahili on the Swahili coast. Remember this tiny space you have to go through to get from here to there? Someone owns that now. Want to get enlightened in the middle of nowhere? The Franks have the biggest kingdom in Europe, and the Pope is so proud that he invites the king over for Christmas. Surprise, you're the new Roman emperor, said the Pope, pretending to still be part of the Roman Empire.
Maybe technically the Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire, and definitely not the Roman Empire. And he was the one who started up then. Okay, this is where it started. Got it.
Then the Franks broke their kingdom into what will later be called France and not France. The Northerners, or just Norse if you don't have much time, are exploring. They go north, from the north to the northern north, and they find some land, 2 types of land, and they name them accordingly. They also
Yep.
invade some other places and get called many names, such as Vikings. There's the Rus, the Kievan Rus. Are they Vikings? I don't think so, said the Kievan Rus. Okay, fair enough.
Much less
The
cool
Pope
hats.
is ready to make some more emperors of the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire. It's actually Germany, but don't worry about it. New kingdoms.
Christianize all the kingdoms.
Where do I know that face from? I know I've seen it before, but I cannot place it.
Which brand would you like? Mine's better. Mine's better. Mine's better. Time to conquer
Yep.
England, said William. It's a bird. It's a plane.
It's the Seljuk Turks.
Said
Don't
the
know much about
Byzantine
them.
Empire, who's getting so small and almost doesn't exist anymore. We need
Yeah.
help. They need help, so they call the Pope. Hey, Pope, can you help us get rid of the Seljuks? Maybe take back the Holy Land on the way? Come on, I know you want to take back the Holy Land. Yes, I do actually want to do that. Let's do a crusade.
Crusade.
They did many crusades, some of which almost didn't fail, but at least the Italians got some sweet trade deals. Goodbye, Mayans.
Hello,
Yeah.
Toltecs.
Goodbye, Toltecs.
Hello, Mississippi.
Look at those mounds. There's the Pueblo.
Oh, yeah, she brought up the mounds. Oh, dude, I wasn't expecting that. For example, in actual Mississippi, like the state of Mississippi right now, there's these mounds, and you can literally just drive through them and see them from a highway or like main road. And for the longest time, people thought, okay, it's just a weird plateau that's kind of shaved on the side. But these are actual steps, and specifically created as a giant step that may or may not have had layers prior. And it was an entire location of an entire city, well before most people realized that that was a thing. And it's fascinating because it may or may not have been a trading post. It may have been a permanent city. It may have been just a location that people moved into for a ritual or for permanent religious reasons. We don't know. There's very little information about this, but it's absolutely fascinating because this is huge. Because this is a very flat area. So when you're up there, it's above tree line, which is probably why they built it exactly that high. It sees everything. Sorry, just the history around this area is absolutely fascinating.
There's the Pueblo. I always wondered how to build a town
These are
and a
just cool
cliff.
looking.
Guess who's here? Come here. Where? Here. And Pagan is there. Vietnam unconquered itself. Korea just became itself. And Japan is so addicted to art that the military might have to take over the government. China just invented bombs and typing. And the Mongols just invaded most of the universe. Nice going,
Yep.
Genghis. I bet that will last a long time. Some of the Islamic Turks were unaffected by the Mongol invasions because they were busy invading India. Is it Tonga time? I think it's Tonga time. I just found out where the Swahili gets all their gold. Look at this Chad. Means lake. There's an empire there, right in the middle of
Lake Chad, yeah.
The king of Mali is so rich
Boo.
he's going on tour to let everyone know.
Africa.
Wow, that guy's
Music you
rich,
put in
everyone
there.
said. The Christians are doing a great job reconquering Iberia, which will soon be called Spain and not Spain. Please remain Christian. We will check in later to
Spain and not Spain. You know, there's probably someone in the comment video going, I object. I'm not going to look because I'm just assuming it's accurate at this
see
point.
if you're still Christian when you least expect. Whoops, half of Europe just died.
Exposition.
China's back, yay! Hey, come here, time to share. New kingdoms here and there. Oh, look who controls all the islands. It's the Mahajapit, Majapahit, Mapajahit, Mahapajit, Mapajahit.
I'm not even going to try.
Majapahit. Oh, Italy's really rich. Time for them to care a lot about art and the ancient classics. It's kind of like a rebirth. Here's a printer, let's make books. So you think you can conquer the Byzantine Empire? Yep, said the Ottoman Turks. Nice job.
It actually just worked.
Ottoman Turks. Oops, you missed a spot. Don't forget to ban
Constantinople.
Europe from the Indian spice trade. What? That's bullshit, said Portugal. Spiceless.
Well, I guess we'll have to find another way to.
And this is where it starts getting into the desire to travel, a Western Passage through what they thought was just empty ocean. Yeah, easier travel.
Wait, said Christopher Columbus, probably smoking crack. If the world is
Oh, that's not fair. He wouldn't be smoking. He would find a way to invent a syringe to use it. He is literally that guy. Would that kill him? I don't think it would matter at that point. Also, the more you learn about that guy, that would probably be a better ending than anything he actually did.
round, let's go this way to India. No, don't worry, we already got this, said Portugal. So Chris goes to Spain. Hey, Spain, want to hire me to find India by going around back of the world? No, please, no, please, no, please. Okay. So he sails into the ocean and discovers more ocean, and then discovers the Indies and Japan. Let's draw a line to decide who gets which half of the world. The Aztec and Inca empires are off to a great start. I wonder if they know that Europe just discovered their continent. The Habsburgs.
Okay, for anyone wondering what this joke is about, I'm not even sure it's intentional on his part. They had the plague, or multiple different plagues even. None of the people over here had these plagues, so they had no inherent immunity to it because no one there had died to it before, so no one had survived it before. So it was a plague well developed to a lot more immune people, suddenly inflicted on entire populations that had some trade, so they would travel and also catch it. Yeah, there was a massive extinction of people in North and South America due to Columbus and the other people from Europe basically bringing over diseases. Yeah, in a very real sense, colonialism happened because America and South America were post-apocalyptic in a very real sense.
The Habsburgs are marrying into so many royal families they might have to start marrying each other. Move over, Lithuania. Here comes
I'm so glad he didn't put up an image of it. I'm not just saying that because I have a chin that rivals theirs and it disturbs me. Yeah.
Moscow. Ivan wants to make Russia great again. Move over, Timurids. Maybe go invade India or something. Persia just made Persia Persian again. Let's make it the other kind of Islam. The one where we thought the first guy should have been the other guy. Hey, Christians, do you sin? Now you can buy your way out of hell. That's bullshit. This whole thing is bullshit.
Martin
That's
Luther?
a scam. Fuck the church. Here's 95 reasons why, said Martin Luther in his
Called
new
it.
book, which might have accidentally started the Protestant Reformation. You know what would be magnificent, said Suleiman, wearing...
Dude. That is a massive hat. Did the artist just make this shit up because the guy couldn't stand it longer? Or did he have to literally just stand there the entire time with that hat on his head? And it looks like a little crown at the top. Goddamn.
Wearing an onion hat? What if the Ottoman Empire was really big, which it is now? What if Russia was big, said Ivan, trying not to be terrible. Portugal had a dream that they controlled the entire Indian Ocean, including the spice trade. And then that dream was real. And Spain realized that this is not India, but they pillaged it anyway. Damn,
Yep.
said England and France. We gotta start pillaging some stuff. Then the Dutch revolt and all the hipsters moved to Amsterdam. Damn, said Amsterdam.
Nothing changed there.
We gotta start pillaging some stuff. Question 1, can you get to India through North America? No.
Yeah. The Dutch do some pretty fucked up shit.
But at least there's beaver. Question 2, steal
Yeah,
the
ironically,
spice
that was
trade.
the reason.
That's not a question, but the Dutch did it anyway. Guess where all the sugar's made? In Brazil. Stolen. In the Caribbean. And it's so goddamn profitable, you might forget to not do slavery. The next thing on Russia's to-do list is to get bigger. Britain and France are having a friendly discussion about who should control the entire world. More
For 100 years, right?
specifically, Ohio. Then it escalates into a 7-year discussion, giving Prussia a chance to show Austria who's boss. But
Did they actually just fight over Ohio? Oh, that sounds like the only time people would actually want Ohio in the entirety of history. And that does include the time when technically the state of Michigan and the state of Ohio did go over a war for a tiny stretch of land between them. That's not a joke. That actually happened. It was a small one, but it did actually exist between the states. And they were states at the time.
But what about Britain and France? Did they figure out who's boss? Yes, they did. It's Britain. Guess who's broke? Also Britain. So they start taxing the hell out of America. Fuck
So, nothing different. Got it.
you, says America, declaring their independence and fighting for it. And France helps them win. Now France is broke. And Britain will have to send their prisoners to a different continent. Wait, if France is
Australia. Yeah. And this leads to the revolutionary in France. Yeah.
broke, why do the king and queen still wear such fancy dresses? Let's overthrow the palace and cut all their heads off, said Robespierre.
And they cut
cutting
yours off
everybody's
at the
head
end.
off until someone eventually got mad and cut his head off. You could make a religion,
Yeah.
though, don't. Haiti is starting to like the idea of a revolution, especially the slaves, who free themselves by killing their masters. Why didn't we think of this before? Wait, who's in charge of France now? Said Napoleon, trying to take over Europe. Luckily, they banished him to an island.
But he came back.
Luckily, they banished him to another island. There goes Latin America, becoming independent in the Latin American Wars of Independence. Britain just figured out how to turn steam into power, so now they can make
Many different types of machines and factories with machines in them, so they can make a lot of products.
This is the longest bit he's had so far. Wow.
Then they invent some trains and conquer India and maybe put some trains there. Hey, China, said Britain, buy stuff from us. Nah, dude, we already got everything, says China. So Britain tried to get them addicted to opium, which worked, actually. But then China made it illegal and dumped it all into the sea. So Britain threw a hissy fit and made them open up 5 cities and give them an island. Britain
Yeah. Opium Wars. That was dickish. Yeah. I'm just taking a little perverse pleasure in it not being America's fault. It's nice. I can't usually say that.
and Russia are playing a game where they try to stop each other from conquering Afghanistan. Also, this
Yeah, that never changes.
Oman lives in Zanzibar now.
that's just where he lives. India just had a revolution, and they would like to govern themselves now. Nope, said Britain, governing them even harder than before.
Incoming telegram? Hi, I just sent you a message through a wire.
Technology is
Oh,
about to
yeah.
go crazy.
Telecommunications.
The United States finally figured out whether slavery is good or bad. It's bad, they decided. And then they continued manifesting their destiny, which is to kill the rest of the natives and take their land and maybe kick out the Mexicans too. I know, let's rape Africa, said Europe, scrambling to see who could rape it the fastest. They never got Ethiopia. Britain
Oh,
and
really?
France are still
They actually didn't get Ethiopia? Oh, good for Ethiopia.
hungry. They never got Thailand.
Whoa.
The United States ran out of destiny to manifest, so they're looking for more.
Hawaii, Cuba.
Wait, Spain controls Cuba. Well, blame
Really?
something on them and go to war. What should we blame on Spain? Let's blame the Maine on
Because yellow journalism created this at the point where basically people are lying because it's what they wanted to hear. Good thing that never came back.
Spain, so they blame the Maine on Spain. Now we're in business. To celebrate, they kick Panama out of Panama and make a canal, connecting the two oceans. Britain just
Actually, fascinating thing about this, because this was made so long ago, the canal is too small for a lot of the superliner transports that exist right now. And it is technically degrading. It's really not that big, and it's in such a harsh location. They can't really make it bigger. And right now, outside of the canal itself, it's kind of a dead man zone around it, in the sense that the jungle will eat you. Partially a joke, partially the jungle will actually eat you. Someone did float ideas about expanding the canal, but that would be fucking hard and expensive. They thought about making a second one, but that would also be fucking expensive. So, honestly, at this point, I'm fully expecting someone to think of the idea where they get a ship bottom based location to pick up a ship out of the water from a dry dock, drive it across in some kind of like human transport tractor across the land to get it there, because at this point that might actually be easier. Is it a good idea? No, it's stupid. But the ideas are being floated that are even dumber than this.
Connecting the two oceans. Britain just found oil in the Middle East. It makes cars go. China is so tired of being bossed around that they delete their old government and make a new, stronger government, which is accidentally weaker and controlled by a guy from the previous government. Europe hasn't had a war since the last war, so they start World War I. Look at those guns. It's going to be a great war. So great we won't need a second one.
Yeah,
After it's
it
over,
never
they blame
happened.
Germany. Russia went on strike and the workers overthrew the government. Now everyone's paycheck is the same.
Communism in the Soviet Union.
The Arabs revolt and Britain helps. Now the Ottoman Empire's gone, so we can give the
Jewish people a place to live.
Hopefully the Arabs won't mind. Let's cut the cake, said Sykes and Picot, carving up the
What?
remains of the
Oh.
not-so-Ottoman anymore empire.
Except Turkey. Turkey makes a brand new turkey.
And then the Saudis conquer Arabia. It just seemed like the right thing to do.
Oh, that's when that happened. Huh.
Hello?
I actually
Yes,
didn't know
it's
when
the
that started.
1920s calling. Let's get in the car and drive to a party and listen to jazz on the radio and go to the movies. The economy's great and it'll probably be great forever. Just kidding. Germany's back featuring Hitler.
Actually, I want to see the chart they had right there. What was it like? So, Wall Street on the... Oh, this is where it was at on the Dow Jones in almost 100 years ago. We are 5 years off from literally 100 years out. Well, that's disturbing. And it was at between 200 to 300. It crashed down to 200. So taking off, that's a lot. Probably went further. Maybe? I don't actually know. Because it stayed down and, yeah. It's crazy that we're actually just tracking 100 years. We added a zero, essentially. Yeah, zero and a couple more digits than that, but details.
Germany's back featuring Hitler, the angry mustache model, and he's mad at the Jews for existing. Japan is finally...
And not to mention, he was denied from a Jewish art school that he applied to because his art was very boring. Yeah, there's images of it. And it is kind of boring. It really is.
conquering the East, and they're so excited they rape Nanking way too hard. They should probably just deny it. Hitler's out of control.
Still
So
do.
the international community tackles him and tries to explain why killing all the Jews is a bad idea, but he kills himself before they could explain it to him.
Unfortunate that part.
World War II.
Bonus round, Pacific Showdown. United States versus Japan. Fight.
Oh, Extinction Ball. Also, just to clarify, the unfortunate part was him not actually being taken to justice, because that might have actually resolved a few more things than the unrestrained ball of, okay, who's going to take over now, that became everything leading into the Cold War. Maybe it wouldn't either, I don't know.
Finish it. Let's unite all the nations and
Threw
have some
two bombs,
fun.
yeah.
Peace.
Seems legit. Hi, I'm Gandhi.
Yeah, that
and
worked.
If Britain doesn't get the hell out of India, I'm going to starve myself in public. Wow, that worked. Bonus,
Yeah,
now there's Pakistan.
still surprising.
Actually, two Pakistans. One of them could be Bangladesh later. The Jews and the Arabs finally figured out which one of them should live in the Holy Land. Me, they both said at the same time. Let's divide up the land so everyone's happy.
Psych, they both get angrier.
Look out, China. There's a new China in China. What's on the menu? Communism. No thanks, said the other China, escaping to an island. I wonder which one is the real China. There's the
That is a very contentious question, and if I want this video never to go up in China, I could easily say, Thailand is a real country.
Korean War, Korea versus Korea. Nobody wins, then it's on pause forever. Let's meet the sponsors. Oh, it's the two global superpowers. They're having a friendly debate over which economic system is good and which one is an evil virus of Satan.
They've both said the Satan part too. Although I don't think they said the Satan part yet. That is something they say now because it was essentially no religion allowed. They weren't saying the Satan part wasn't allowed. Again, they do that now.
Both have atom bombs. Fight! Wait, no, that would be the end of the world. Let's just keep it cool and spy on each other instead. And make sure we have enough atom bombs. I'll race you to space. Now let's make some more countries fight themselves.
Probably should have the clarification there that the race to space idea wasn't so much, ooh, we're seeing who's better by going to space. It's, ooh, we're seeing who's better by going to space, because if you can deliver a weapon from space, you don't need to worry about retaliation, because by the time it reaches you in a normal way, the enemy is already dead. So yeah, faster delivery of bomb. That's the point. That was the fear.
Europe is tired of pillaging other continents, and the continents they were pillaging are tired of being pillaged. So here's a new map with new countries. Now you can't tell who they're being pillaged by. The United States finally decided whether racism is good or bad. They decided it's bad, and the world agrees. South Africa might need another minute to think about it. Let's check the world population. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Technology's better too. That might keep happening. The Soviet...
What was that one before the VHS? Idea container, fire mixtape. Yeah, they still are. Music box. My terrible vacation, insert side into recorder. Oh, God.
The Soviet Union decides to relax a little and accidentally falls apart. Europe makes a...
Accidentally is really not the case there. In fact, they didn't relax in the slightest. What ended up happening wasn't that they did that. A worker revolt when things were pushed too far, and the internal lies they were telling themselves, like, this is great, this is awesome, we don't have any problems here, broke eventually. I think it started in Poland, but I'm not entirely sure if that was the first one, because I know there was multiple different worker revolts in multiple locations in multiple countries. Essentially, they were stretched too thin because of spending everything in massively inefficient ways, leading to people in charge with expectations of do this or die, and the massive blunder that was Afghanistan, draining resources, the blunders within foreign-sponsored wars, draining resources, their inept government draining resources. Essentially, corruption everywhere led to draining resources and telling people it's great when they're starving, and then telling them they're not starving. It didn't work out. And when they went to respond, one, the guy at the top actually wasn't an asshole and murderous monster. That would be very different now. And they did let things break, and then reformed and actually had a decent government for a few years, and then Putin took over. But that's further on.
Europe makes a union, so now they can all use the same money, except Britain, because they don't feel like it. Let's check the mail. Surprise, it's on the computer. Whoops, someone just attacked America. I bet they'll remember that. Phone call. Surprise, it's in your pocket. Want to learn everything? Surprise, it's on the computer. Now your phone's a computer, which is in your pocket.
There it goes.
Whoops, the economy just crashed. Don't worry, the big banks won't fail because they're not supposed to. Surprise, flying robots with bombs. Want to print a brain? Some people have no friends.
Actually, the funny thing about that, there is actually some technology to do this right now. You essentially get a stem cell, you print them out. The hard part isn't so much printing the stem cell, that's easy. It's keeping the previous ones alive in a solution that you can still print into without destroying it by attaching the next one. It is theoretically possible to do this with almost any organ, but it's really hard to keep them alive. If that has ever managed to be safe, or if there's a way to freeze the cell without killing them and attaching them to an overall larger thing, and then unfreeze them together without killing them in the process, or out that one specific cell dying that you need and everything else dying because of it. It's hard, but 3D printing organs isn't entirely outside of the realm of possibility now. It's just outside the realm of, oh God, why are we spending so much money in it? Yeah, but it is a possibility and has been for a very long time before 3D printing took off with a lot of other materials. I know they're starting to do with I think plaster on top of resin and plastic. Plaster specifically because housing construction, so it's plaster and some other options. I think it is closer to terracotta mix, but I could be mistaken because, honestly, I just haven't looked it up recently. They might move beyond that. And I heard it's sometimes possible to do it with metal, but that is a much more annoying process. Possible, but annoying as fuck.
Some people have no friends. Some people have no food. The globe is warming.
And the ocean is full of plastic.
Yep.
Let's save the planet,
Garbage
said
patch.
everybody, not knowing how. Let's invent a thing inventor, said the thing inventor after being invented by a thing inventor. That's pretty cool. By the way,
What?
where the hell are we?
Okay, this is just really freaking cool. I love history in general, so all the various topics he brought in, not just the world history from his creation, but going back into some of the Big Bang topics, and he's just doing a very quick overview of everything. But I know so many of the things he's talking about. Sometimes I knew more, sometimes I knew less. Some of the various time periods he mentioned. Numbers are beyond me on this. And he did mention a lot, though, that were incredibly specific that I thought would be completely glossed over because, for example, the Mississippi civilization, that's not a very common thing to know about. There are people who live in that area that I'm related to, who I know for a fact, no idea about this. And frankly, it's still fascinating because there are ancient ruins in America that are so freaking cool. And the Pueblo, who is also very freaking cool. Just so many cool things. Ah. I need to check out more of this guy's stuff, don't I? I'm not sure what to check out next because, again, I've never heard of Bill Wurtz until, well, actually, I heard about him a few years ago when people mentioned it, but I never watched his stuff, so I don't know what his stuff is. It seems really interesting. He has a very eclectic knowledge of random events that I know about due to obsession and literally just having way too much free time when I should be driving to work. And I instead listen to random podcasts about history because it's funny. And I do that, but he apparently knows a lot of things. I've only had a little bit of information. I can't speak today. Information. There we go. About. It's cool. Basically what I'm saying is if you know what I should check out next, let me know. I will probably do that. And I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. If you like this, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.